Before we start breaking down the potential futures of Hunter x Hunter, this video is sponsored by NexStage Project and the debut of their first generation of VTubers, Code X. I spoke about them on the channel a while back, and I loved their focus on quality and tech. And now they're absolutely living up to it with a debut concert streaming live on their YouTube channel and Twitch, links on screen and in the description, on Sunday, March 5th at 6 PM Eastern and 3 PM Pacific. The new talents will sing their original song Breakout, written and produced by the acclaimed Circus P, who Vocaloid fans will recognise from the colourful stage game, as well as multiple Miku expos, and there'll be a variety show afterwards. The concert will be produced in live 3D, with the members of Code X all performing and chatting with fans in real time. Again, tune in on Sunday, March 5th, 6 PM Eastern or 3 PM Pacific at youtube.com/@nextstageproject or twitch.tv/nextstage_project to join in. In 1999, Nippon Animation debuted their adaptation of a manga series that had only started a year prior. Yoshihiro Togashi's Hunter x Hunter. It was actually my first anime and was what turned me into an anime fan in the first place, with its adaptation of the series all the way up to a point part way through York New City, eventually finishing it and covering the Greed Island arc through OVAs. 12 years later, a brand new team at Studio Madhouse launched their remake of the Hunter x Hunter manga, adapting all the way through past the election arc, ending on what Togashi refers to as the series' first ending. It's now 2023, 12 years since the 2011 adaptation debuted, and the same amount of time between the two series showed their versions of Gon setting out on his journey. And so, naturally, with Togashi's return to writing and his becoming the most followed mangaka on Twitter, I can't stop wondering, what would a 2023 Hunter x Hunter look like? Okay, I'll be frank. I've wanted to make a Hunter x Hunter video for years. When I was a teenager, I discovered the manga in my school's library, and when I finished reading all the volumes they had, I turned to the 99 series. Even to this day, there's nothing quite like it. Togashi built a framework in which he could explore any genre or tone he wished, and created nigh-on psychopathic characters who wouldn't hesitate to come along with us, no matter how dark things got. Arcs featuring death games, a tournament, heists, and a trapped in a video game scenario. He even invented a supernatural battle system that was as logical as it was ridiculous, always having a justification no matter how smart or stupid a power was. I originally wanted to just make a video about how much I love Hunter x Hunter, but my takes aren't particularly unique. It's the best Shonen Jump manga. Then I thought about comparing 99 and 2011, but Forgotten Relic said it better and more thoroughly than I would have in a video about the Gon vs Hanzo fight. So, let's talk about the anime that doesn't exist, but absolutely should.
俺が欲しいものは今も昔も変わらない。目の前にない何かだ。
Despite its hiatuses and despite Togashi's decline in health, Hunter x Hunter has never really waned in popularity, instead continuing to capture generation after generation until it reaches those that weren't even born when it started. Will there be a new anime? Absolutely. The industry is hunting for nostalgia bait right now, with returns to stuff like Fruits Basket, Urusei Yatsura, and Trigun. It won't be this year, but someday, Hunter x Hunter will return. But here's the thing, it won't be a remake, and it won't be long running.
その通り。正しい道はこっちだよ。
The anime industry has been in an overproduction crisis for years now, affecting almost all shows produced today in some way or another. This has also had an impact on the viability of long-running programming, which used to be more commonplace even back in 2011. A consecutive 148 episodes were by no means easy to create. Despite being produced by Madhouse, the vast majority of production took place elsewhere. Hiroshi Kojima, the director, is the president of his own studio, Studio Live, and they, along with plenty of other teams across the industry, took turns creating episodes until it could finally reach its finale. These days, creating a reliable system like that is much more difficult when all those teams are already busy with the increasing number of series being produced. It's now gotten to the point where the number of shows that run for longer than a year consecutively has gone down, and most are barely able to release more than 12 episodes at a time without having to take a break. Even Pokemon, which has been constantly airing for the last 26 years, is finally ending its run following repeated delays and production issues in its latest season to be replaced with what is likely a more viable format. It's not a fate anyone would wish on Hunter x Hunter. A production collapse before we even get to the boat. In fact, a shorter, more focused series would actually be more in line with Shueisha's current production philosophies. Around the time of the Hunter x Hunter reboot, it was normal for the biggest Shonen Jump series to get longer adaptations. Toriko had 147 episodes, Sket Dance had 77, Beelzebub had 60. But according to Shonen Jump producer Hiroyuki Nakano in 2019, those kinds of long-running shows have become less viable, and so they've instead sought to deepen their relationships with studios that instead focus on shorter late-night anime. That's how we get Bones' My Hero Academia, Ufotable's Demon Slayer, and Mappa's Chainsaw Man. It's more viable, and arguably more profitable, to create 12 to 24 impactful episodes with quality animation, and then have the creative team reassemble in a year or so for a second batch. And in terms of a format that would suit Hunter x Hunter best, to be honest, we've already seen it.
What you waiting for, and it's you that they
Bleach was done, dusted, finished. There were fans yelling about how it hadn't properly ended for over a decade, but we as a community just decided to ignore them. Until, surprisingly, it did come back. 10 years after the original Noriyuki Abe show had finished, bringing with it a brand new creative direction and format. From the team behind Akudama Drive, Bleach Thousand Year Blood War aims to complete the story in one core chunks, battling against the industry's overproduction issues by having a gap of 6 months between part 1 and separation. There is a small overlap in team between it and the original, namely the return of character designer Masashi Kudo, but it's largely a new interpretation of the source material, and it features plenty of things that just weren't possible back in 2004. Compositing director Kazuhiro Yamada has been ahead of the pack for a long while, but even he couldn't have made Bleach look the way it does today back then. Innovations in VFX and 3D across the last decade have allowed him and his team to create a new identity for this guy and his friends. I'm sorry, it looks good, but I was a One Piece kid. I don't know who any of these people are. But the point is, this is kind of the future I see for a Hunter x Hunter return. In an interview with Hiroshi Kojima, the director of the 2011 anime, he says that if he was asked to return, he would. But he'd actually like to see a new, younger director take the reins. And he's not kidding about returning either. Despite not being a fan when he was first offered the job, he was happy to direct a PV for a mobile game titled Hunter x Hunter Greed Adventure in 2018. In the 4 years since completing the anime, they'd all moved on to new projects. But despite being busy, Kojima found it easy to get animators to return to Tokashi's world.
グリードアイランドへようこそ。ゴンフリークス様ですね。これよりゲームの説明をします。
Here, he's trying to recreate the visuals of the 2011 series, which were often quite, for a lack of a better word, plain. Despite being a decade older, the 99 series often had more to say with its use of light and colour, modifying it based on the atmosphere of each scene, with York New being a highlight. And this was intentional. The goal of 2011 was to recreate the story in a way that's easier to follow, accessible to children, at least until it changed time slot in 2013, and has clean, distinctive character designs. And I think they succeeded on all fronts. But, if you ask me, after 12 years of this, a new Hunter x Hunter should have a new look. And if it's going to cover the Dark Continent and Succession contest arcs, that look should be 3D.
こいつすげえムカつくぞ。
Nah, I'm kidding. But it's not the worst idea. Despite their awkward Unreal Engine looks in Jump Force, I went to the 4D showing at Universal Japan last year and it didn't look bad at all. Given previous examples like Berserk 2016, Saint Seiya, and most recently Trigun Stampede, it's not unlikely that a producer might come out and say, hey, let's try something new here. But I don't think it would be the right fit. Unlike Berserk, the characters of Hunter x Hunter have simple line work and are easier to draw in 2 dimensions. In fact, it's been the anime adaptations that have added detail to Togashi's drawings, which succeeded in making just a few choice lines feel iconic and striking. It's open to new takes, and that's kind of what I want for a new Hunter x Hunter. Like how Naoyuki Asano reinvented the Matsu brothers for Osamatsu-san, giving them gooier faces and blue lines. Or Devilman Crybaby's team going for loose demonic shapes and a colour palette that's either high contrast or low contrast depending on the scenario. I'm not saying it needs a Stampede level reinvention, but if it's going to be adapted for the 3rd time, then I reckon it needs something beyond just being more of a show that aired 12 years ago, but with prettier compositing. But that's not necessarily the majority opinion. I threw a poll up on Twitter and only 32% of my followers agreed that a new Hunter x Hunter anime should have new character designs, with 60% saying they'd prefer the look of 2011 to continue, and the bravest of the lot saying they'd want the reboot to go 3D. We've already established that, given the chance, the director of 2011 would return, and likewise, the chief animation director and character designer Takahiro Yoshimatsu likely would as well, being a big fan of the manga himself, and having also returned for the Green Adventure PV. The changes between this 2018 iteration and their final days on the show in 2014 are, as you'd expect, slight. The designs are a bit smoother and maybe the lighting looks a little better, but these essentially could have been shots from the original show. The core team is around in 2023 as well. Hiroshi Kojima is directing the 2nd season of his The Vampire Dies in No Time show at Madhouse, and Yoshimatsu was chief animation director and character designer on Atsuko Ishizuka's film Goodbye Don Glees, also at Madhouse. Basically, if the 2011 series were to continue, the production would likely be managed by Madhouse again, as the lead creators still have ties there. In response to my poll, some questioned whether it would be possible for the look of the 99 show to return, and honestly, I get it. For me, this is Killua and this is Kurapika. Not only that, but the show in general had stronger layouts, and despite being created before digital productions have become mainstream, it is able to achieve more with less with its atmospheric lighting. Because of the change in technology and trends, I don't think it would be possible to totally mimic the look of 99 today. In fact, the show itself found it difficult enough, with constantly changing character designs, inconsistent animation quality, and most drastically, a switch to digital colouring in the Greed Island OVAs at a time before anime creators had worked out how to stop things from looking so glaringly flat and bright. There have been attempts to recapture the aesthetic of pre-digital shows, but it's never quite there and rarely popular. Megalobox was, by all means, a great show, but people had mixed feelings about its attempt to adopt a retro aesthetic through grainy textures and a reduced quality. Similarly, despite being led by the original character designer and chief animation director of Mobile Suit Gundam in 1979, Mobile Suit Gundam The Origin still looks like a modern anime. The director of Hunter x Hunter 99, Kazuhiro Furuhashi, still does work in the anime industry today, serving as the director of Spy Family. 99's character designer and chief animation director Takayuki Goto, a founder of the anime studio Production IG, making up the latter initial, is also still around, doing animation direction for the Galactic Hero films. But even if we got these two old men in a room and asked them to make the same kind of show they once did, I don't think they'd manage. Some things would work, sure, but without the full package, the painted backgrounds, the grain of the cells, the distinctive colours, it'll only ever be a shallow imitation of a time gone by. Oh, that's kind of a downer note to leave the video on, but I will say the reason I want to see a new approach is that we've already seen these two shows that are made for audiences of those particular eras. They fit common standards and design trends, and they'll always exist. Even 99 will live on in hard drives if not on streaming services. I don't think Hunter x Hunter needs to copy its other adaptations, because if it does return, it's as a relevant 2020X show, not just a throwback to yesteryear. Yoshihiro Togashi didn't just write a story, he wrote a scaffold, a world and characters that he could use to explore any great ideas that came to him. And I feel that anime should be the same way, exploring different ideas and aesthetics. If not new character designs, then at least something as iconic as Bleach's return. Thanks for watching the Canipa Effect. This video was meant to come out in early January, but I've been doing a bunch of home renovations that are now, finally, complete. Thankfully, Hunter x Hunter is never not relevant, and I'm looking forward to making an animation spotlight when the anime makes its long-awaited return. But, that aside, thanks to all of these people for supporting the channel. In particular, I'd like to thank Alan Bakero, Austin Hardwick, Biopower, Chris Boylan, Dedameat, Eddie Leheka, Frizzy Canadian, Frogkun, Jacob Bosley, JR Pictures, Mike Tamborelli, my own mother, Rylan Taylor, Studyoy, Tomara Man, and Tiago Nascimento. For more videos like this, please visit patreon.com/thecanipaeffect.